In an effort to keep my sister in the spotlight, my parents canceled my wedding for her engagement. But a phone call changed everything. I've been thinking about this for a while, so I could really use your advice. I'm 28 years old, engaged to my fiancé, Jake, 30, for about 8 months now, and we've been planning our October wedding. Everything was going well until last week, when my parents gave us a shocking revelation. For background, I hate to sound sour, but I always felt that there were some areas where I performed better than Mia, but never received any recognition. For instance, in high school, I was a straight A student and played on the team. My younger sister, Mia, 25, is a woman who has always been the golden child in our family. She has been dating her boyfriend, Tom, 26, for about 2 years. I know cheerleading deserves the same respect as other sports, but would it have killed my parents to show the same enthusiasm for my events? It's safe to say that I grew accustomed to my absent parents and learned to expect almost nothing from them, so I distanced myself from Mia because my immature self blamed her for overshadowing all of my accomplishments while she was a cheerleader. For the volleyball team, my perspective on everything changed in college when I met Jake, the love of my life, even though I knew deep down that it wasn't her fault. Jake showed me that I was unique in my own way, and that if someone didn't value my accomplishments, that was their loss. At the same time, I realized that it wasn't fair to place all the blame on Mia when it came to my achievement. It was actually our parents' fault. So I made an effort to restore what little sisterly bond we still had. I started checking in with her more frequently and told her that she could talk to me about anything. At first, she was a little hesitant, but eventually, she felt more at ease opening up to me. And we would discuss almost anything, no matter how foolish or serious. Although our hobbies and life choices differed slightly, I was still content with that. The fact that our relationship was gradually getting better, and that it seemed like we were finally becoming the sisters we should have been all along. In fact, when Jake finally asked me to marry him, she was the first to admit that she was just as thrilled as I was, and that she was eager to assist me in organizing my wedding. At that point, I thought everything was going perfectly, which is why I was totally taken aback when my mother called last Wednesday. After a few minutes of small talk, my mother innocuously inquired about wedding preparations, which was unusual because she hadn't previously shown much interest. When she finally revealed that Mia and Tom were planning to get engaged, I was thrilled because I thought there couldn't be anything better than my sister getting married. But then I realized that her statement that Mia and Tom were planning to get engaged confused me. I asked Mom what she meant when she said that Mia had told her that Tom had been making suggestions about getting engaged, asking her about her ring size, telling her to buy a new dress, and all the other things. These were pretty clear indications. But Mia always romanticized everything and made things seem bigger than they actually were. I didn't want Mia's expectations to be so high and then be let down, so I asked. When my mother asked me if she was certain that Tom was proposing, I assumed that would be the end of the call, but I was in for another surprise. This time, though, I wasn't going to be happy because Tom and I were getting engaged. So I was shocked when she asked me to cancel my wedding. I thought I might have misunderstood, but she was serious. Jake and I had waited 10 months because we wanted to. I don't know what happened, but when we ran out of money for the venue, Mom and Dad said they would cover it. I felt like they did it to compete with Jake's parents, but I was determined to have the wedding of our dreams and didn't want to compromise on anything. We had already paid deposits to the caterers and other vendors, so moving everything back a year would mean losing a lot of money, not to mention the hassle of rescheduling everything. Mom continued by explaining that Mia wanted a full year of being the center of attention with her engagement photos and announcements on social media, and I was too busy enjoying the fact that my parents were finally interested in my life to concentrate on their vindictive nature. But wait, this isn't the worst part. You haven't heard the reason why I should postpone my wedding for a fictitious engagement. I was completely perplexed as to who makes their sister cancel her wedding and lose money. I tried to reason with my mother about something as trivial as social media, and told her that I would not post anything about my wedding anywhere. However, she threatened to take away all the money they had promised for the wedding if I didn't agree to postpone. At this point, they were essentially blackmailing me because their precious daughter was an attention seeker. I told my mother that this was unfair and absurd, and we argued for a while, with her insisting that I kept asking Mia about my feelings. But she would only tell me that they wouldn't cover the venue if I went ahead with this. I was furious because I didn't deserve this. I had sacrificed everything for him throughout my life, and now that the day of my dreams was finally approaching, but was also being snatched away from me, I did something I never would have imagined. Doing out of pure frustration and rage, called Tom, Mia's fiancé, to share with him some information about Mia that he was unaware of. A while back, when everything was going well, the four of us went on a double date with Jake, Mia, and Tom. It was one of the few times we had time to spend together, and I remember feeling truly happy as we laughed and told stories. For once, everything seemed to be going well, and at one point in the evening, Mia and I excused ourselves to the bathroom to freshen up, because Mia gave me her picture to hold while she washed her hands. And then, all of a sudden, a text message appeared on the screen asking if they could meet again. My heart skipped a beat because I knew that Mia had dated a man named Mike, but I had assumed he was no longer involved. I couldn't help but wonder who Mike was, and why he was asking to meet again, and Mia instantly became squirmy and tried to brush it off by saying it was nothing. I knew it was none of my business what my sister did, but Tom seemed like a good guy who loved Mia with all of his heart. She said that there had been some texting back and forth, but it was nothing serious. When I asked if Tom knew about this, she simply said that he didn't need to, because it was nothing, and rolled her eyes. This was just an old friend reaching out, but I could see the anxiety in her eyes. So I asked again if something was going on between her and Mike Hart. So I just couldn't get rid of the uneasy feeling, but I decided to let it go, because Mia later told me that she was no longer speaking to her ex. However, at that point, when Mia was attempting to ruin my happiness, my mind went crazy, and when I called Tom, I told him everything I had seen in the text that day, and if that wasn't enough, I told him that he should keep an eye on his girlfriend. Looking back, I realized that this is kind of wrong, and not the part of naturally. I told Tom the truth, but it was too late. 2 days after I spoke with Tom, I received a call from Mom once more. To put it mildly, I was relieved that I wasn't in front of her, because she was yelling like a crazy person, as if a catastrophe had occurred. But then she told me that I had made a huge mistake. Apparently, Tom called Mia and told her that they needed to talk. Mia believed that she was going to get engaged, so she got all dolled up. But when she finally arrived, she was confronted by a furious Tom, who told her what I had said and asked if it was true. Mia initially denied it, but Tom then demanded her phone, at which point she became defensive and told him to trust her. Ultimately, Tom ended their relationship because there was no way that Mom and Dad would forgive me for this. I could hear Mia cursing me in the background, and Mom was yelling at me. I kept saying I was sorry and telling them that I only did this because they said I had to call off my wedding, which I had worked very hard to plan, and then my dad decided to take back the money they had paid for the venue. I felt like I had lost everything: my parents, Mia, and any hope of a wedding, and I knew Jake wouldn't have been pleased with me either. After learning what had happened, I tried calling Mia to discuss things, but she didn't answer any of my calls. When Jake returned from his business trip, I finally told him everything, and to my belief, he was very supportive and reassured me that we'd figure things out together. Jake was on a business trip at the time, so he wasn't aware that our wedding was jeopardized, partly by me. My distress was overwhelming, and I felt guilty for ruining Mia's relationship, even though it wasn't entirely my fault. Jake and I decided to go ahead with the wedding, even though it meant reducing expenses. We began thinking of ways to save money, and reached out to friends and family to explain the situation and ask for help. To our surprise, one of Jake's friends saved the day and used one of his contacts to find us a beautiful but reasonably priced venue. We just need to postpone the wedding a little bit more. It's actually fine with me considering the current situation. I kept trying to get in touch with my parents during this time, and as I write this, I genuinely wonder why I did so. But at the time, I was just afraid of disappointing them, and the guilt was eating at me. However, they refused to come to my wedding, even if everything went according to plan, falling into place. But we also noticed that a lot of my relatives said they wouldn't be going or didn't reply at all. I didn't have to be Sherlock to figure out that the news had spread, as one of my aunt's mother said, and Mia made me look like a villain in a soap opera who couldn't accept her sister's happiness and lied to ruin it. They also changed the story and told everyone that Mia was already engaged and was getting married, but later I wanted to have a wedding where I looked and felt my best. But after everything that had happened, I just could not. At the same time, I cannot allow my parents to affect me the way they have for the rest of my life. They accuse me of ruining Mia's life and accuse me of being envious and spiteful. I got engaged and wanted everyone's attention. Ignoring me was one thing, but lying about my character by now is just exhausting. However, she is devastated, and hasn't spoken to me since the incident. I feel bad, even though I know what I did was right. So I'm asking you guys to forgive me for not delaying my wedding and telling me about her cheating as a boyfriend. The fallout has been intense, and my parents have unexpectedly begun talking to me. Though not for the reasons you might think, they want me to apologize to Mia. Jake has been incredibly supportive throughout this, telling me that we made the right decision and that we should concentrate on our impending wedding. When Mia finally reached out to me, she was furious and heartbroken, accusing me of ruining her life and sabotaging her happiness out of spite. It was a difficult conversation, and I tried to explain my side, but she wasn't willing to. I lost my temper at her insistence that I had no right to meddle in her relationship, regardless of what she had done, and I asked her why she thought she had the authority to control my wedding plan, which, mind you, had been planned long before she was even close to getting engaged. Before I could even start to discuss the lies she and Mom had been spreading about me, she hung up as word of the family feud spread like wildfire. Wildfire? I got a surprise call from Meg, a childhood friend I hadn't spoken to in years. Following my move away for college, we only communicated via social media, but I had kept in touch with her for a while longer. Their friendship lasted into their early 20s. Meg also disclosed another shocking incident involving Mia's infidelity, which had happened about a year ago at Meg's 25th birthday celebration. As the evening went on, and nearly everyone was intoxicated, Meg noticed that Mia was becoming more flirtatious with a number of male guests, including her boyfriend. At first, Meg dismissed this as Mia's usual behavior because she had always been a natural flirt. But as the party came to an end and the guests started to depart, Meg realized that she hadn't seen either Mia or her boyfriend for a long period of time when they were discovered together in the other room. This was especially scandalous because Mia and Tom had been dating for 2 or 3 years at that point, and she had undoubtedly contributed to Meg's trauma. I was just shocked that this had been kept a secret from Tom for so long, and that no one from the party ever told him about it. The incident caused a rift between Meg and Mia, and when Meg learned about it, their friendship ended. I was shocked by this new information and realized that Mia's cheating wasn't an isolated incident, but rather a pattern of behavior. I asked Meg to do me a favor and tell Tom about it herself because I had reasons for doing so, including the fact that Jake, my fiancé, had visited Tom and he wasn't doing well. Though he didn't say it, I'm sure he was also accusing me of believing everything I said. Therefore, it would be much better if this devastating news came from someone who wasn't me. I also didn't want to do this because I couldn't fuel the flames of my jealousy of Mia. As soon as Tom received this information from Meg, he wanted to meet in person to discuss things. So I agreed in the hopes that we could find some common ground, resolution, or at least put an end to the situation. We met at a nearby coffee shop, and he was clearly still reeling from everything that had happened. Meg's information was just another shockwave that hit him, but he was relieved, and at last knew that he had made the right choice. Tom also told me the specifics of his breakup with Mia, and Mia was correct to believe that Tom was going to pop the question after our talk. He acknowledged that he was devastated, but appreciated my candor, saying that it was better to know the truth now rather than later, possibly after they were married. He also acknowledged that he had suspected something was wrong in their relationship for some time, but couldn't pinpoint it until I called. After we spoke for a while, Tom revealed that he intended to take some time off to recover and reassess his life, and he thanked me for having the courage to. The situation with my family hasn't improved, though, as my parents continue to support Mia, insisting that I was out of line and that I need to make amends. They can't seem to understand why I did what I did, focusing only on Mia's heartbreak and not on the fact that she was the one who cheated. Telling Tom the truth, even though it was painful, gave me a sense of closure, knowing that I had done the right thing by being honest with Tom. It's been a roller coaster of emotions, but I'm thankful for the support from people who understand my perspective. I'm trying to keep my eyes on the bright side and continue planning for my wedding, and Jake and I have decided to go ahead with our plans, regardless of my feelings. I received a lot of support from friends and extended family who heard about the situation. Many of them expressed their disbelief at my parents' behavior and commended me for saying what was right. I know this isn't the end of the drama, but I'm determined to stand my ground and refuse to let my parents' favoritism and Mia's actions dictate my life any longer. It's time for me to prioritize my happiness and future with Jake. Update 2. Hello people. We've made some adjustments to the budget and are looking into ways to make the wedding special without their financial support. About 4 days after my initial update, everything took a drastic and unexpected turn. Just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, They did. I was trying to concentrate at work when Jake called me urgently, sounding panicked, and told me to come home right away. I rushed back, thinking something horrible had happened, but when I got there, I discovered Jake was obviously upset and gave me a letter that had been slipped under our door. I was shocked to receive a letter from a lawyer for my parents, threatening to sue me for emotional distress and defamation over the fallout from Mia's broken engagement. The letter explained how my actions had caused me a great deal of emotional pain and had harmed her reputation. It demanded a public apology, a retraction of my statement about Mia's cheating, and a sizable financial settlement. As I read the letter, my phone began to buzz and it was MIA. She kept calling, so I finally answered in the hopes of getting some answers. Mia's voice was a mix of desperation and anger, and she screamed at me, saying that I had ruined her life and that she had nothing left. She also mentioned that she had lost her job because Tom had told their mutual friends and co-workers about her. Parents have literally gone beyond their bounds to be as vindictive as possible. I say that Mia got what she deserved after getting that legal scare for my parents. I tried to reason with her, telling her that she needed to take responsibility for her actions, but she was distraught and accused me of being jealous and vindictive, saying I had always wanted her. Cheating. The news had spread like wildfire, and she was now the target of gossip and judgment. She was deemed problematic, and that led to her being fired. Jake and I spent the rest of the evening talking about our options, because we couldn't afford to get involved in a legal battle with my parents, but we also couldn't allow them to intimidate us into submission. I believe they knew that we were already balancing our funds for the wedding, so this legal battle would be the final nail in the coffin. The following day, I sought advice from a lawyer who was taken aback by the circumstances. While all of this was going on, I got another unexpected call from Tom's mother, who had heard about the situation and wanted to thank me for telling Tom the truth. She said that Tom was devastated, but was prepared for a counterclaim. He assured me that we had a strong case and suggested that we gather evidence of Mia's infidelity and the impact it had on her relationship with Tom. She also mentioned that Tom was planning to move to a different city to start over, which was something I was glad to have learned before making a lifelong commitment. Her call was a small comfort in the midst of all the chaos, because it reminded me that even though there was immediate fallout, I had done the right thing by being honest, and that my parents and Mia could act however they wanted, but that wouldn't change the fact that they were at fault. That weekend, things took a dramatic turn. When my parents unexpectedly showed up at our house, they were furious and demanded to talk to me. Jake tried to calm them down, but it quickly turned into a shouting match. My mother sobbed and begged me to make amends with Mia, while my father accused me of ruining the family. They repeatedly threatened to cut me off financially and to file a lawsuit if I didn't comply with their demands, but I refused to be intimidated into doing so. My parents stormed out after I told them that Mia's actions had consequences, and that I would not apologize for being honest. The following few days were a haze of legal consultations and emotional turmoil. Jake and I attempted to concentrate on our wedding plans, but the stress was too much, and we began receiving messages from extended family members who had learned about in the middle of all of this. I received a surprise message from Meg, my childhood friend, who had told me about Mia's previous infidelity. She offered to provide a statement about what had happened at her party, which could be crucial evidence if my parents decided against it. Some people were offering support, while others were criticizing my actions. I especially hate involving Jake in this drama because he doesn't deserve any of it, but I'm also grateful for his support. I felt a glimmer of hope when I decided to pursue legal action with Meg's help and the evidence we were gathering. It was obvious that this battle was far from over, but I was determined to stand my ground and fight for what was right while I was at it. I also want to thank you all for becoming my support system during this difficult time. It hasn't been easy, but you guys have given me a clear perspective, so I'll see you guys in a while. Update 3. Hello everyone. It's been my parents and Mia insisted on meeting in person to discuss everything after a few more days, and Jake and I agreed in the hopes that this confrontation would finally provide some clarity and resolution. We then decided to meet at our house so that we could control the atmosphere and prevent a public spectacle. When my parents and Mia arrived, there was a noticeable tension in the air, and they sat down, and I could see the anticipation in. I started by addressing the elephant in the room and telling them that I understood why everyone was here today. But before we go any further, I want to make one thing clear. I'm not here to apologize. I'm here to lay out the facts. My parents and Mia exchanged bewildered looks, showing that they were clearly not expecting this. I took a deep breath and started presenting. When I asked Mia if it wasn't true that she had given me her phone during a double-date dinner a few months prior, I discovered that she was speaking to her ex-boyfriend Mike while, mind you, she was in a very serious relationship with Tom. I also mentioned that she claimed it was an isolated incident, but we both knew that wasn't the case, didn't we? I recall Mia's face going pale and her shifting. Uncomfortably in her chair, I proceeded to extract a folder containing evidence. I informed her that I had spoken with Meg, the party host, a year prior, and she had confirmed that Mia had been caught cheating with her boyfriend. This wasn't a one-time error, but rather a pattern of behavior. I gave her the written statement from Meg, and Mia's parents looked at it, their faces changing from shock to bewilderment. But that wasn't all I took out. Evidence Mia was unaware that I had text messages from Mia to Meg in which she confessed to cheating and pleaded with Meg not to tell Tom. The messages were timestamped and left no room for doubt. So when I put the printed copies on the table, my mother gasped, and my father's face flushed with rage, though it appeared to be more directed at me this time. Next came Tom's letter, in which he described how he confronted Mia following our conversation, and how she ultimately admitted it. He also talked about how her adultery affected his decision to not pop the question, leaving my parents stunned as they gazed at the documents before them, unable to dispute the overwhelming evidence. Mia's eyes welled up with tears, but she remained silent, clearly understanding the seriousness of the situation. Next, we talked about the lawsuit. I firmly informed my parents that they had threatened to sue me for defamation and emotional distress. But based on this evidence, it's evident that everything I said was true, and they had no legal foundation upon which to stand. In fact, if they continued to pursue this, I had a strong case for a counterclaim. The room fell silent, and Mia and my parents were obviously shocked by the situation. I felt relief when I realized that I had finally stood up for myself. And I told Mia for the last time that I didn't do this out of spite, or I did this out of jealousy because it was the right thing to do. Mia's actions have consequences, so it's time for her to own up to them. As for my wedding, I told them that everything was going according to plan, with or without their help. Jay and I will get married, and we won't let anyone ruin our happiness. I stood up to signal that the conversation was over in the hopes that this would be a turning point for us all, and I left the room feeling I felt in control of my life for the first time in a long time. My parents and Mia could continue with their lawsuit, but they now knew that I would be confronting them head-on and that there would be no benefit to that. Jake and I moved on with our new life, supported by our friends and extended family. Even though we knew that the road to healing with my sister and family would be a long one and challenging, but we were prepared to face it together in the end. I learned a lot from you, and as Jake and I looked to the future, I knew that we were stronger for having faced these challenges head-on. Standing up for myself and doing what was right brought a sense of peace that I had been missing for so long, as well as your tales.